Hi everyone, welcome to our event. This event is brought to you by Data Talks Club, which is a community of people who love data. We have weekly events. If you want to find out more about the event we have, there is a link in the description. Click on that link, check it out. You'll see all the events we have in our pipeline. In particular, there will be a workshop about Airflow 3.0, like 3.0, the new version of Airflow. If you want to find out what's new and how to use it, check it out. Then also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Not only can, but I think should, because this way you'll stay up to date. You'll get notifications about all our future streams, like the one we have today. And last but not least, we have an amazing Slack community where you can hang out with other data enthusiasts. So there is a link in the description. Click on the link, join the community, and yeah, have fun. During today's interview, you can ask any question you want. There is a pinned link in the live chat. Click on that link, ask your questions. We will be covering these questions during the interview. So that's the usual intro. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Find the questions we prepared for you, Dimitri. I also want to quickly find the previous podcast interview that we had. When was it? Do you remember? Was it more than a year?
I think isn't it linked in your document?
It is linked, yeah.
It was about a
Maybe
year ago.
year ago. Cool. So I think say streamed 1 year ago, November 20th, 2023. So slightly more.
Mm,
Anyways, so if you're ready, we can start because like I have all
I'm
the
ready.
things. Then okay, where is just 1 second? I am putting you on the right. Cool. I'm ready too. So hi everyone. This week, we'll talk about data freelancing and taking your freelance career to the next level. We will also talk about like getting started again. And we have a special guest today, Dimitri. This is not the first time Dimitri is a guest here on this show. Previously, we talked about, I think the title was Becoming a Data Freelancer. So we'll briefly touch some of the ideas from that episode, and Dimitri will give us an update on what he has been up to recently because we just mentioned that previously we spoke a year and a half ago, so many things must have happened. So Dimitri again, thanks for joining us today. And so let's start with the usual question that I ask. Tell us about your career journey so far, but also maybe give us an update, like maybe just briefly mention things that you worked on, uh, like in your life, and maybe let's spend more time talking about
Sure.
what happened in 1 year and a half. And I forgot to mention one thing. Sorry, that all the questions for today are prepared by Johanna Bayer. Thanks, Johanna, for your help. So now let's start, Dimitri. So tell us about yourself.
Sure. Hi everyone. Basically, I'm I started off in 2013. Basically, after I graduated in business administration, I fell in love with data after my first internship. Basically, I loved Excel and so on and so forth. So that was basically my entry drug into the world of data. And then slowly, after a few years as a data analyst, working for different types of companies, um, large corporations, startups, a bit of everything, I kind of did the next step, did a master's in data science, basically to kind of level up my skill set, became a little bit more technical. And yeah, so after I did all that, about 6 years of work experience, I found myself in a situation where I reflected back on my career journey. I saw that on average, until then I worked for 4 companies. On average, I worked 1.5 years with each employer, and I figured out that I'm not really good at sticking around as an employee. And yeah, so that was basically then my decision to make a change and figure out something that I kind of enjoy more doing. And I thought that if I could work on my own, that would be the right solution. So yeah, I basically in 2019 I basically bet on myself. I quit my job and became a full-time freelancer. I had no clients basically ready. I had no transition plan, anything like this. And I just thought, let's give it a try. Let's try it out for a year. And if it works, great. If not, I'll probably have learned that I'm probably not as good on my own as I thought, and I would just go back. Luckily, it worked out well. And about 6, 7 years in now as a freelancer, I really enjoy it. Really fits me to my lifestyle and everything. So that's why I also have the pleasure to talk about the topic, because I'm just really in love with what I do.
Hmm. Yeah, I want, like, apologies, I'm going a bit off the script, but isn't it fun, right? So you mentioned a few things, and I want to ask you about these things. So first thing you said is that on average you stayed 1 year and a half at each company when you were a full-time employee. And I kind of had the same situation for quite some time until I found a company where I managed to stay way longer. And I'm wondering, like, isn't it becoming a new norm to stay like, I don't know, year and a half? Because like in 1 year, you can do a lot for a company, right?
Well, it depends. It depends, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, some probably people say you probably need about 6, 7 months, first of all, to get started, to do some,
Hmm.
let's say, damage, or to really provide value, because at the beginning you have to get to learn the people, the product, um, the tools, and everything. I mean, like this. So it takes time to really be a, let's say, a valuable employee. But I mean, you can always, I mean, have different opinions about that. And
Hmm.
then, yeah, I think that that takes time. But I have, I've thought a lot about this, and I've talked a lot about this with friends and people. And I think, first of all, in tech, it's probably more common to switch jobs more frequently and not stay on, let's say, at
Because it's also, like, to be frank, sorry for interrupting, to be frank, switching jobs frequently is one of the best ways of increasing your salary.
yes, probably. But when I did that, I thought if I would switch a job again, maybe the company during the interview process, they will ask me the typical question: given that you have switched so often, how long do you think you will stay with us? You know, and I thought that's kind of, it's a fair question, but I also felt it was kind of embarrassing to get asked that
Hmm.
question. So again, that all moved along, but I think also it has to do maybe also something to do with our generation. You know, all the generations, when you hear how they talk about their employer, they maybe have worked for lives or decades, you know,
Hmm.
for them, and they've given a gut, or you know, like their liver, you know, to support them even in bad times and everything. And nowadays we feel like if we don't get to work from home, if we don't get a certain, I don't know, employee benefit, you know, then the company, you know, they don't value us, you know, and we make it so much about ourselves than, you know, about the employer. So I think it's a shift, mindset shift, and yeah, it's different nowadays. But again, you can't change it if we are how we are today in this generation.
Hmm.
If the work is like how we are, and if it, again, if it permits that big tech companies or generally tech companies accept people to switch that often, I mean, why not?
Hmm. But also, like, one of the things you mentioned is, yeah, it takes time to become like a valuable employee in the sense that you need to learn the ropes, you need to learn the people, you need to learn the tech, some custom built tech too. Every company has that. And you need like at least 6 months for that. But as a freelancer, doesn't it apply to you too? Like that you need to like learn all the ropes to do your job well, or the assumption is that the employer, the somebody, the person or the team who is hiring the freelancer kind of prepares the groundwork for the freelancer to just come and for the freelancer to just focus on their thing.
Yes and no. I would say yes for, there are different types of freelancers. And I would say the two types that I would generally say are the ones that sell their skill, and the other one that sells their expertise. The one that sells their skill, for example, is someone that is good in Python, you know, as a data analyst, knows, I don't know, Power BI, and so on and so on. So you can really define them by the types of skills they have. And the company might say, hey, we need someone with those skills. What we're going to need here is more supporting role. So we're going to hire you for 6, 12, 18, 24 month, whatever. So it's a long-term project. And yeah, you are kind of as like treated as an employee, but like on the payroll, you're not. So in that sense, I agree. You have to come on board. You have to learn about all the things because the project is not much defined. It's very open. They know the skills you need. So that's the one thing. If you are the other type of freelancer that basically selling their expertise, you work on a very specific problem that you want to solve, and you have done that more often. So you know exactly what basically the input variables look like of your job, what you need from a client. You know exactly what the client expects. So what the output or the product at the end is, and you basically optimized for that. Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different on the type of service or product that you're trying to sell as a freelancer.
What if you don't know how to solve the problem, like this specific problem, but you kind of... So my assumption, but it works for me as an employee, that you can fake it till you make it. That you can say, okay, I know how to solve this problem. You start solving this problem, you start researching this problem, and eventually you solve it. It also works with freelancing too, right? Or maybe in this case, your expertise is the problem-solving skill.
I mean, now we're we're getting a little bit like this, but I mean, you can always, as you said, there are always projects where you don't know everything, and there's a part where you basically have to figure it out while you go along, and that applies to employees or freelancers. It's the task that needs to be delivered. So yes, don't know how to further add on this because again,
Maybe we shouldn't go there. But also lately, I've been doing some freelancing, or maybe should I call it contract projects? But anyway, so I'm helping some companies with doing courses. So I've been doing courses for quite some time, and now companies saw this and say, okay, like you're doing courses really cool, like your courses are really cool. Can you come to us and also help us create some courses? So I guess in this case, the expertise is I know how to create courses, but then I don't necessarily know to like 100% the content that they need to create. I know how to create courses in general, but maybe the specific technologies that they want me to use, I don't know, like, and I have to, learn them. And this is cool, right?
I mean, yeah, but I assume in that sense, you know how to create courses. That's your expertise. How do you build a course? You probably have, let's say, I don't know if you have a documented process or if you have it just in your mind, but I assume that in order to get a course, you probably first define who's the course for, um, who's the audience, what are you trying to achieve, where do you like this transformation that you want to give the audience through the course. So where they're at now, where you want to bring them. How do you do that? Do you use specific technologies where the course might be hosted? What budget do you have in terms of, do you just shoot it in your room? Do you go into like a studio to record it? So on and so forth. And that's probably just like a nice framework, but that's the expertise that you have, and that's basically the input, and you just have to fill the input, with the information that you get from the client. So here you don't have to compare it again to, let's say, a data analyst that knows Power BI and they are part of a company, and now they ask them, create this dashboard, now help us analyze this data. Now, every time the question is completely different, whereas you're selling the expertise. At the end is they want to have a course, and at the end of your engagement, they have a course that they are selling to a client.
Yeah,
So,
right. Yeah, makes sense. And you said that freelancing worked out well for you. So like how did you know that it worked out well? You were happier or like...
I mean, the first thing I think, and what's the most important part is if you make money. And when I started out, I had no client, I had no idea. The last let's say employment engagement, I worked for a consulting company, so I already got to see a little bit how consulting works, what's the dynamic with the clients, and so on and so forth. And I always thought I could do it better. That's the typical, I think, the motivator, that you have that ego that you think you can do it better. And yeah, so when I started out, I gave myself basically that deadline of 8 months to basically get enough money or clients or something, like some signal that shows me, hey, I can make money with this in the first 8 months. and then if it doesn't work, I can have another 4 months to find a job. And with this, I would basically more or less complete 12 months where I basically had those savings for the next 12 months to cover my living expenses and everything like this. So that's what this was basically my goal or my strategy when I started out. Luckily, one of my very first, let's say, bigger projects was a contracting project where I was hired as a data analyst. So again, that gave me the right feedback. I got directly, let's say, basically some money in, and some good money basically. So I told, at that moment you think like, oh, I made it. I'm successful. I got a client, nice, and I'm actually making so much money. But then slowly you also figure out it's just one client, and I'm so dependent on them. So now how do you get other clients? But then I slowly also got other clients, and I was like, oh, look, these are basically the signals that you want to receive. But at the end, I think it's making the money, and that's the most important part, because if you don't make it, then you probably go back to another alternative, and that's probably employment.
And I think we actually talked about this already, and I was asking you how exactly you got your first client. And did you work with recruiters back then, like who helped
Yes.
you find clients? So that
Yes.
is, how easy was it to find these recruiters?
Find the recruiters. Let's say like this. The way I've done it was right before I became a freelancer. I sometimes was getting some like on LinkedIn, some recruiters asking me, if I would be willing to work as a freelancer because they have some projects. And that's basically where I saw, oh, look, there's like what I do. There are people that pay me as a freelancer. And that's basically how I got in touch with the first recruiters. And then I basically saw basically the keywords, like how they advertise themselves, or they post projects on LinkedIn and under specific, let's say, contracting. That's one of the key terms. That's always been used. So then I was doing some research, and I found some more recruiting agencies basically, and I reached out to them, sent them my CV, asked them to get on calls, so I can also ask them questions and learn more about the situation.
Hmm. Yeah. And so you've been in the industry for quite some time, and also I was observing the trends and the industry changing. So a few years ago, very popular, I think, was MLOps. Now I don't see many, like it's not, let's say, a hot term anymore. Mm. The problem is still there. People still need to solve these problems that MLOps was solving. Uh, but because we have AI, we have new hype, new terms, like other things are more in demand, more popular. In your opinion, from your point of view, what are the things that are hot on the market right now? Where if I want to start freelancing, I'll have a better chance to find clients in these areas.
It's tough with a hot, because again, my job is to, let's say, feed my own pipeline, and I'm not, let's say, the market research guru that
But
always.
should we even care about this?
Oh,
Should we
I mean,
chase the terms? Like, should we chase the hot topics? Or maybe there are some topics that are good enough, they have been good enough, and they're going to continue being good enough, and that's enough.
and I'm now coming to that, is
Hmm.
because I don't know the hot topics, because hot topics probably always there's this component of, again, they are hot, that's why they're in the news. Let's talk about, let's say, the last 2 years with generative AI. Just because it's a hot topic, do also now companies look for freelancers with those skills? Yes, no, might be. I'm not that freelancer, so I'm not looking into this always. But what I've seen, and I found it funny because you just mentioned MLOps, I felt, because I do have let's say, a job board for freelancers, and I have created some statistics around it, and I always look into that. And what I find funny is that I generally see, let's say, lots of freelance projects for the title of data analyst or data engineer, but I see fewer and fewer for example, the data scientist. And I thought, like, is the data scientist disappearing? Um, or did the data scientist over time, for example, rebranded itself to ML engineer? And then again, now it's something else. Now it becomes an AI engineer. I haven't spotted that one yet. but I can still see that, let's say, the basic data analyst or data engineer titles, they are going pretty strong, and that's probably what most people also that are hiring those roles, and they're not always that technical. They kind of understand that the data analyst is the person that basically visualizes the data, gets the insights out of it, and the data engineer is the one that basically does all the infrastructure behind that. There might then much be more behind that. You could have a data architect and so on and so forth, but they don't know that. So that's why I think those umbrella terms of data engineer, data analyst are still going very strong.
Do you see ML engineers right now?
I see it sometimes, but again, I haven't looked into it that closely, to be honest.
Okay.
So
So what is this job board? Is it something that you're doing, you're maintaining?
yes, basically, well, a few years, just to get the context, a few years ago, like 2 years ago, while I was on paternity leave, I was sharing more my journey as a data freelancer, like as I'm doing it right now, and so I basically started learning how other freelancers find their jobs and so on and so forth. And one part was that again, how do we get clients? And the most visible, let's say, projects out there are being posted by recruiting agencies that all have their individual job board basically on their websites. Um, there are people that post it, for example, on LinkedIn. There are some projects that say on Upwork and so on and so forth. So I basically crawl all these websites, and I basically aggregate it all into one freelancer or data freelancer dashboard, job board, and that helps basically to always stay on top to see what's basically the newest project out there. And then, of course, crawling those information, you get information on average how much some of the projects, what is the budget for them. So you can start doing some interesting statistics around that.
Mhm.
And I also follow, there are some big, let's say, organizations that also help freelancers get a project with clients, like Freelancer Map, that is basically the like this umbrella company where all those agencies can also basically post their projects, and they also publish some market research studies that I also particularly enjoy, and it's nice sometimes to see similar trends that they talk about on freelancers that I kind of sometimes also see in my job board, so
Mm.
it's
But
becoming
your
always
job,
bigger. Yeah.
yeah, your job board is specifically about data freelancers, right? So you don't do
Yes.
DevOps, front end, back end.
Correct. I mean, I segment a little bit on the job title. So sometimes I have to update it a little bit because I crawl much more, but I try to kind of put it down, let's say, more filtered way in the job board.
Hmm.
Sometimes I also, let's say, have some bad filters in place. So sometimes if there's an AI company looking for designer,
Hmm.
gosh, I got a designer in my job board, but that's rarely happen. But yeah, sometimes I have to update it if LLM engineer becomes like a cool thing. Now I have to add it basically so it appears
Hmm.
in there. Otherwise, I get tons of also, let's say, more software engineers that have less to do with data. So try to really
Hmm.
pin it down to data freelancers, and I try to segment it by data analyst, data engineer, data architect, AI specialist, web analyst, and so on and so forth.
Do you think it could be more valuable to start freelancing as a more like generic software engineer, not focusing on data and then transition to data? Or maybe when it comes to freelancing, because in freelancing, you sort of specialize, you sell your expertise, right? So is it a valuable approach, or maybe it's better to actually, learn data engineering properly first and then start freelancing?
It's hard to basically say what's the best route. I would always look at what does the market have and go kind of backwards from there. And
Yeah,
if
this is where the question actually, how it came to my mind, because we were talking about you parsing this, crawling these different websites, and then throwing away things that are not related. And my assumption was that there are quite a few backend engineers or general software engineering positions that you throw away because they are not data related.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, if there are so many, maybe it actually makes sense. It might make sense for somebody who is looking to start their freelancing journey to start there. Or no, what do you think? But we can
Well,
all.
I
Do you
mean, it
have time?
also depends on the skills one have, you
Uh-huh.
know. Like if
Yeah.
I'm a data analyst, I probably won't just become a software engineer from tomorrow. I
Yeah.
mean, it takes time to learn
No,
those
that's right.
skills, you know.
Hmm.
I mean,
But do you have the numbers?
I could pull up numbers, but again, not as so fast. I mean, again,
Uh-huh.
on the you see a little bit if you would go to the website, there's now the freelancer rates section, and which has a little bit of let's say some distribution of how much
It's the
different
Data-Freelancer, right?
the Data-Freelancer.com, and then when you're on the website in the header you see freelancer rates, and
You can
that's
see
where
your base there. It's freelancer rates. Cool. Found
yes,
it.
and now I basically do like a distribution of basically the hourly rate of those
Hmm.
projects, and the skills basically that are basically the top performing skills or the most frequently occurring skills per job title, um, and also the ones that basically pay the most, but those are the ones probably that have the least count, but
Hmm.
not in order now to confuse some people who can see that. It's basically that's the more or less the data that I have. So yes, I could technically um, go and see how many software engineering roles am I throwing away and so on and so forth. Um, but yeah, again, it's part side project. It's part it serves my own purpose because again the job board I've built it for me, you know, for myself.
Hmm.
But again, I can also first of all I cannot 99 percent or even more, you know, are projects that I cannot work on my own or not applying on it because I'm busy myself.
Hmm.
But once in a while, I do open it and I do apply for projects that I
Hmm.
have in there because again, why should I go to all those different recruiting agency websites or why should I go to other job boards or tools that I know that exist? It's just a waste of time if I now build a crawler and adding a new source for me is now a fraction of a second because I built my little system. And again, I came from the Excel. I mean, I came from a business. I first studied business, then I went to Excel, then slowly I learned Python. So again, while I do know a little bit how to code, I'm still a terrible coder. And if I can build a tool like this, like a crawler and everything, it teaches me a little bit about data engineering myself. And so again,
Yeah.
it's also a learning project basically for me.
Then I'm looking at the rates, and then you have a section with top paying skills. And by the
Yeah,
way, the website looks pretty neat. It's very cool.
thank you.
So the first top paying skill is data management, and the second is AI development. So for data management, the average rate is $120, and the AI development is $116. So what is data management like
Data
here?
manage, yeah, that's a good one. I have to better define them also on the website. So usually data management are the ones that have basically in the title something with data and something with management.
Right. But is it like I guess organizing the data storages, right? Like, should you use S3? Should you use MySQL? Should you use, I don't know, Hadoop, whatever?
It could be pro. It's a little bit of again. I have to be better in those filtering. That for sure. But still, usually the way it works is when I see a project, I have like this very simple, let's say, case one statement. And you can imagine like the first ones, I always check if, let's say, data and analyst is in there, then it's a data analyst. If it's data engineer, it's a data engineer, and so on and so forth. And then one of the very last ones is if I'm not able to categorize it because there's something else in there, then I always check if there's something with manager or lead in there. So those projects could be either, let's say,
Okay.
a database manager, for example,
Mhm.
which might be much more technical, but it could also be, for example, data strategy project, you know, where you might need a little bit more business data skills than being a technical person.
I
So those
see
goes
now.
also into the data
Yeah.
manager because you kind of a team, or sometimes they look for a fractional data lead. So
Mhm.
now you're more a team lead position, and that's why it's more manager. Um,
Yeah. Now it makes total sense why it's the top paying skill, right? So if you throw in the management
yes.
scenario here, when
And
you need to
again,
lead the team,
the
yeah.
the top paying skills usually are the ones that have almost the least count. So again, they might appear maybe once or twice, but in a project that paid a lot. So now it's paying up. I still have to put some weight basically to that to show the better one. But again, I just launched it, and again, but it's I thought, why do you always have to wait to show the perfect data? Sometimes
Makes
and
sense.
and data people sometimes, I think they can see that they can smell they see the job board, they can smell it, and if you have a little bit of experience, and that's again, someone who goes into freelancing shouldn't be the student from day one. It should be someone that has a little bit of experience, and I think they can see the job board or even the statistics right now. They can see, hey, there's some truth to it. It might not be the perfect visualization, but the beauty is that those people usually reach out to me and tell me like, hey, why don't you add this to the freelancer visualizations, and then slowly, if I get the time, I'll add them because my goal is to again make it available to anyone.
Okay. And then right now I'm checking the other section of your website, which is the job board. That's a pretty cool thing you built. Do you plan to publish any of the historical data in open source so people can do like analysis, trends, and then see what was trendy, what is now trendy?
I haven't thought about this because no one has asked me so far. Maybe I should. Maybe.
Yeah, because like maybe you can just put it on Kaggle datasets.
Yeah.
And then, because like some of the questions that I asked you, what is trendy, what is not trendy, it's difficult to answer without data, right?
Yeah.
But when you have the data, and you actually do,
Yeah.
then it's just a matter of somebody taking time and digging into the data and then finding the
Correct.
answers. And perhaps because we do courses, and for these courses there are projects, and people, the course participants, are always looking for interesting data sets to dig into. So this could be a nice
Oh, I like
project.
that idea. It sounds nice, especially um, let's say especially freelance jobs postings overall. They don't have a long lifetime value, so the data gets, let's say, irrelevant really fast because someone is looking at a freelancer right now. They look for
Mhm.
maybe probably 1-2 weeks, and that's probably when they found someone, and then basically that job posting is basically now irrelevant for new ones. That's why also the job board only shows projects that are, I think, up to 1 month old. But again, usually I cut off. I started doing it in I think around March last year. So now I'm starting to get like a full year of data.
Mhm.
And slowly. So yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a nice idea.
Mhm.
I'll think about this and then maybe get back to you offline, on how should
Mhm.
I structure it
Yeah,
or put it up there.
I would be super happy to help because we have published a few data sets on Kaggle,
Mhm.
and we ask the community to do things with this. So, anyways, the topic is not publishing data sets. The topic is freelancing. We talked a lot about getting started with freelancing. I don't think we should go and repeat these things again. But okay, let's imagine I found a few clients, and it's been a couple of months since I started freelancing. So I kind of have clients, mm, and I know what to do to find a new one. What's next? Like, should I just continue doing this and just be a freelancer, or there is something else? Like, can I start a business of freelancing? Or maybe it's a just good thing to just continue doing what I do, because I think you mentioned that it allows you to live the lifestyle you want, and this is already a cool thing. So why not? Why ruin it, right? If it's so cool.
I think it depends. First of all, everyone is built differently. Everyone has different aspirations, and again, I think first of all, if someone starts out freelancing and they have had their first initial success with the first clients, and they see it's working and it's working for them as a, let's say, as a source of supporting their lifestyle, their life, and everything, because that's why I think for me I call it a lifestyle business. Um, if you get to that stage, you have that confidence that you don't worry, oh, will I get the next client, and so on and so forth. So that's probably the moment where you ask yourself, should I grow as a business? And that's something that I've done myself in my second year, because I thought the first year went so well. Now the next natural step is to become, let's say, an agency where I'm pretty good at sales. I get more clients, and now I outsource to other freelancers who do the job for me. And some people are pretty good at that and they enjoy that. For me, it was a lesson that I learned that I'm not that type of person. I've basically had two very, let's say, I would say, larger projects with two clients, where on the one side, the first project I hired or subcontracted 4 freelancers, and the second project I had 9 freelancers. So that's already a big number or bigger team um, to manage. And for me, those two experiences were crazy pain points to manage people, follow up, check if everything was fine, and deliver something to the client and kind of help them to keep things alive, the maintenance part of it. And yeah, so I figured out for myself that I'm not the agency type of person. And therefore, I personally discarded that idea or that path for me. But some people are good at it and make it work. And I mean, there are data agencies out there, so it's possible. It's just not for me. And then what other paths are there? Again, for me, I came to the realization that I want to be basically the one person, one person team. I don't mind sometimes collaborating if there's a um, if there's a right opportunity, but usually I work with clients as a freelancer. To be honest, you don't need 100 clients. You don't need to have to chase clients. Once you get your fair share, a handful of good clients, basically they can support you for a long time, for a good time. Um, Again, getting new clients is a hassle, it's a challenge. It doesn't matter if you just started out or if you're there after 10 years or probably 20 years. New clients is always a new challenge. But usually, from my experience, is if you have clients, they help you to get new clients because they refer you. And again, you don't want to chase always new clients, you want to chase projects. And usually the projects are within your existing clients. So you basically want to milk the cow as much as you can, basically. And yeah, so that's usually the journey. And with all the, let's say, AI tools out there nowadays, I feel like a one-person business can become so much more effective. Again, um, Claude codes a lot of, I don't know, SQL statements for me if I have to do something really fast, and instead of me figuring it out, I just ask Claude to come up with a query, and usually with just triggering it a little bit, I get the one that I needed. Instead of spending maybe 10, 15 minutes, I spend 2 minutes, and that's a huge time saver. Same for coding, but also same for coming up with ideas or approaching a problem. Having this AI sparring partner on your side, is super helpful. And especially if you're a one-person business, it's something that we didn't have 5 years ago.
Definitely. Yeah, I also noticed that my productivity skyrocketed once I incorporated these AI tools in my workflow. So I don't need to write a lot of SQL, but like code, yes. Do you use any other tools except Claude?
Um, so far, Claude, because like when I started using it a few months ago or a couple months ago already now, they were kind of the best ones that I found
Yeah,
for code.
3.7 model
Yes,
is
yes.
amazing.
For coding is pretty good. Now, of course, the ChatGPT AI model with the pretty funny images, came out. So, of course, I always buy ChatGPT and then I cancel it again after a month, and then after a few months, I use it again. It's more of creating some images or just playing around basically, and I use it, for example, also for the Data-Freelancer. Because I also crawl projects that are basically in German or in French or in other languages. And what I do is I ask it to basically translate it, or for example, read the job description and give me the text skills out of it in like comma separated lists. And to do things like this, I think, for example, it's pretty good. And again, ChatGPT was there from day one, so it's also the one I'm most familiar with when I use it
Mhm.
as an API.
So you don't use Cursor or Lovable or things like that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Again, there are so many. Sometimes I think like, should I spend more time to figure it out?
Mhm.
But again, then
Because I
you
recently, yeah, I recently canceled my Claude subscription, and so I was paying like, was it $20, I think? And then I put this $20 per month to Coursera because I think
Okay.
like I was using it for coding mostly, and now I have
Yeah.
the chat inside my Visual Studio. Oh, it's Coursera, but it's like Visual Studio
Yeah.
Code 4. So then I don't need to switch between the browser and my environment, so I can just chat immediately
No,
there.
that makes sense, especially if you're coding a lot.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
I wish I code more. I coded more than right now because like I do a lot of operational stuff. But mm. And other thing is you mentioned that for you it's a lifestyle business. What exactly do you mean by a lifestyle business?
Um, what I mean, again, lifestyles for me is how you live your life. And if I don't have to answer to nobody, just basically to myself, on where do I want to work, when do I want to work, do I want to work on my couch or in my bed? I mean, nowadays it's different. It's slightly different because some people say that after the COVID pandemic, so many jobs are now working from home, and or working from your home office is so much more
Mhm.
acceptable. But again, just because you're a freelancer, it's not just you can work from home. Um, Also, I switched companies in the past because I switched country, and sometimes I proposed my employers to keep working for them just from a different country, and that often they always say like, "Oh no, that's kind of a legal issue or whatever." Now again, if I switched country, there's no problem. I just do it and I stay. I keep being a freelancer. I keep working with the same clients. There's
Mhm.
not this issue. So that's something that I think. Plus, I feel like as an employee, let's say employee versus a lifestyle business, again, you have specific tasks, you have to work on that. Um, Once you are a freelancer and like there's this, let's say, entrepreneurial aspect to it, because you are your own business, you start working on things that don't always, let's say, move the needle, but you start experimenting, you create this new mental map in your head of what is possible, basically to, let's say, make money or to fulfill any other pleasures. And that could be a good example, for example, of the Data-Freelancer, where I said, oh, let me build a job, like the job board. Let me also now slowly start to build, because at the end, the Data-Freelancer is basically my online course for data professionals who are interested in becoming a freelancer. And basically building it up, I thought, I mean, I could put it on Gumroad or any other online platform to sell these things, but I thought, hey, why not building it myself? So there's this one aspect where I said I want to code it myself, especially in JavaScript, which I haven't done before, so I had to learn it. Partially also using AI tools helped me a lot to code as well. But again, I see also people again paying for the course, and every time someone pays and I get a small Stripe notification, it's like this little thing of pleasure. Again, it's not you don't become rich, or at least I don't become rich through that. But it's like this little thing where you think like, oh shit, I just woke up and I just made some money,
Mhm.
and it's different from the, let's say, freelancer mindset of working for an hourly rate. I mean, not
Mhm.
all projects have to be hourly rate, but it's that mentality where most freelancers start from, working with an hourly rate. And now you make money while you sleep, and you think, oh, now I'm not a data analyst in this case. I'm more a course builder and a marketeer. So now you
Mhm.
figure out new skills and passions that you have, and yeah. So now I see that I learned about scraping. So now I have um, a specific, let's say, product that I sell to some of my clients where I use the code that I already pre-built for the scraping. And I tell them, hey, if you want to scrape, I don't know, your competitors or something else, let's do that, because now I learned about scraping. And so I start integrating little things and I upsell my clients. And again, at the end, it's this entrepreneurial mindset or a map that I have in my mind.
Mhm.
And now I say maybe I should do something like a drop shipping business. I don't know, like some other
Mhm.
things, but whatever, let's say, idea you have as a freelancer, you have the time. Just do it.
Mhm.
Try it out. If it
Mhm.
doesn't work, well, it didn't work. But
Yeah.
it's this freedom of trying out things, and I think
Mhm.
that's part of the lifestyle business
Mhm.
that I enjoy.
Yeah, makes sense because you're at the end, you're your own boss, and you decide, okay, like this day I will invest in trying something new, and these 2 other days I'll invest in working with existing projects, existing clients, and maybe this one extra day I'll invest into looking for new projects, whatever it is, right? But then you
Right.
have the freedom. You may realize that this day I spent will not necessarily bring me money immediately, but at least I have the freedom of saying, this is day for me. I want to explore new things. I want to build a course, or maybe I want to see what's possible there. I'm not making money right now, but it's okay. And nobody can tell you that you cannot do this, right? Because
Correct.
it's on time.
It's your
And
choice.
yeah, and you mentioned you have a course. What this course is about?
Again, it's the Data-Freelancer. It's online course for data professionals who have been employees basically, and now they are considering about going freelancing, or they want to discover this world of freelancing, because for many people, uh, they don't know how to become a freelancer. What are the considerations they should do before actually doing the move? Um, how do you actually get clients as a freelancer? What are the steps? What are, let's say, little strategies that you can use? So it's not just for data professionals who want to become freelancers, but also maybe those who just started out and they just want to see, hey, how are others doing it? And it's an online course that gives the foundation, online course plus basically a PDF where I put on all my knowledge. And apart from that, we are a small community of like-minded freelancers and who want to be freelancers. And basically, we get together, we answer each other's questions on how do you do, I don't know, how do you apply for these types of clients? How do you do with, I don't know, your taxes? Whatever question it is. So we're trying to support each other. And on the side, I also organize. I try to do it twice a month, some community events where I invite anyone related to, let's say, our freelancing activities. So most of the times we are already, let's say, data people, so I don't like to invite people that teach us any data skills, but often someone that tells us about how to do branding um, as a freelancer, or how to do maybe outreach, how to yeah, improve your, let's say, your LinkedIn game. Anything that's more marketing related usually, because those are usually the skills that we need and we want to improve. And again, the
And
fun
yeah, we don't
and
necessarily have the skills. We don't develop the skills you work in full-time job, right? As a,
yes,
I don't data engineer, I don't learn how to market myself. This is
yes,
something I
and
need to pick up if I want to be a freelancer.
yeah. And it's always a good exchange with again, you have the course basically that was just the foundation, so people get the I would say the good basics covered to understand what freelancing is about and how one should tackle it, because there's so much to it. And then there's the part where if you want to make it um, reality, you have to do the action, and that's where we have basically the community to support, and also with the events to kind of keep up and show like, hey, there are other freelancers out there. That's how they do it, and yeah,
And the website is the datafreelancer.com, the same website where you host a job board and the freelancer rates, right?
correct.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. And I guess this is so we have a section here in the questions of diversifying your business, and this is one way of doing this. So let's say your main focus is working with your clients, but then you said working with your clients on projects, but then you set aside some time to see what else is there. And one of the things that came up out of this time is the course. Do you do anything else?
Again, that's the good part of diversifying, because again, mentioned client work is one thing. Now, basically trying to get this online course a little bit more promoted, so that's another thing. Um, what I've done as well is I wouldn't call it diversifying that much, but still improving my lifestyle business, because I used to work much more on a client basis, or much more also on hourly um, based, basically hourly pricing projects. And again, 2023, I became a father. So 2024 was big learning on, because in 2024 I was doing everything the same as I was doing before, and I figured out that um, while you can make a really good living, I prefer to kind of calm things down. I want to spend more time with my family. So I know I want to have my freelancing business much more stable. And that's what I'm currently working on. Is basically I introduced the subscription, basically the subscription model to my freelancing business, where I basically offer myself as the data analytics, let's say, command center, or the data analytics one-person team to my clients, and they basically have full access. They can ask me anything. I often join some of their meetings with the team, so I can learn also about the business. But basically, I'm there 24/7 technically for them, and it's on a subscription fee. We do 6 or 12-month contracts with those clients. Or I do them, and yeah, and that basically is helping me to build something much more predictable, stable. And again, the beauty of those projects, and I often get this asked by people when they say, don't those clients kind of abuse you? No, because the client I work for are, let's say, founder-led e-commerce businesses. They are very small e-commerce businesses, 5 to 15 people usually. They are cash flow rich, so they are investing a lot of money in marketing activities. They are busy with their promoting their business, but they are not data people. So they don't know what a data person really does. They believe the data can help them. So they don't have enough power to abuse me on do this, do that, do this. They kind of do this as an experiment to see if data actually does this really bring value? And they kind of, I built up this trust with them so that they say, let's do this engagement, let's see what you bring to the table. And they kind of want me to kind of push them. And that's basically that's why I think it works so well at the moment, this type of business. Because again, it's not like I build dashboards every day for them, but it's really much more telling them, hey, change this, do this, and then wait for the clients to actually do the changes. If they don't do it right away, I have more time to relax and do other work on other clients. So.
And I assume there are probably some safeguards in your contracts that prevent them from abusing you, right? So you just tell what kind of work you do, what kind of work you don't do, right? So if they want to use you as a coder, then maybe like it's not something you can do. But if you're a consultant, when you tell them, okay, this is what you should do, I think, then it's another thing, right?
Yes, correct. Again, and I also tell them like if I can. I mean, they know me. They're a small team, so it's they have this relatable thing. They don't want to work with an agency because sometimes an agency is too expensive for them. It's too much for what they actually need. So if I position myself as the one freelancer for them, that's really gives them the understanding that I can also only work on one task at a time. So if I tell them, hey, let's for example build this dashboard that incorporates all your marketing activities, I'll work on that, and as soon as I have that, you'll hear back from me. And usually, so far, I've been in now 4 months in this experiment with 3 clients, and it's been great. No one of them has pushed me. Actually, it's fun how you don't need data science skills, but just by very basically filtering a table and doing it in a way that they were not able to, you spot things where with one client that is a subscription business. Basically, I mean, they sell also courses on the subscription model, and one of their, for example, payment providers had some issues or some bug. So for a couple of months, they were not pulling money from those clients, and the clients had access to their course. So just by looking at the data as we data people can do it in, let's say, either a spreadsheet or in a notebook or whatever, on this granular level, we can spot those things and we can highlight them, and they quickly figure out that, oh, we basically lost 20K by not charging people. Let's change this quickly, and that's a return on investment for those small companies. That is I mean, for them it's incredible, and for them it almost sounds like magic. But it's really about understanding the client, working with them, and kind of building trust. And I think that's why this, the subscription model works that well for this type of business. I don't think it works for all data tasks, but yeah.
And this reminds me of a book called Million Dollar Consulting. I don't know if it was you who recommended me this book or it was one of the guests of the podcast. And there, it's written by Alan Weiss. So Alan,
Otherwise, yeah, he's
yeah,
one of the godfathers of those types of books.
So one of the things he mentions there in the book is that you can have a retainer. You put your clients on the retainer. So you did a project for them, but then you don't just, part ways. You stay on a retainer, and retainer is exactly your subscription model, I think, because
No,
they no, but it looks
no,
like so there is a project,
yes,
and they want you to continue supporting this project, right? And this
yes.
is the retainer.
The retainer usually, I mean, yes, they are very similar, but not the same because the retainer usually is tied to a specific, let's say, hourly commitment. For example, I stick around for 5, 10 hours a month.
Uh-huh.
If you use like you pay for them upfront.
Mhm.
If you use them, great. If not, you basically lost them, and I'll charge you again at the beginning of the next month or period or whatever you want to do, and you have to pay them upfront. Um, which is different to when you work hourly. Just saying. And what I do basically is mine is not tied to the hours I work in for the client. So the client knows I'm there like a retainer. The only thing is there's no hourly. I don't have to report on clients like, hey, I was there for 10 hours or I was there for, you don't just log every Friday in a call with me or something like this. So it's much more relaxed, much more laid back, because I didn't want to get into this retainer model. Because again, if I have retainer model, I only have 40 hours a week that I can sell. With this
Yeah,
other
makes
model,
sense.
I have the ability to basically sell more because I know later on how to manage the clients. And some clients again need 1 hour of hand holding, and then for them it's such a value. For the other client, they need 10 hours of hand holding, and it's less value. So it really depends on the client, and that's why I call it also more subscription because again it's a retainer but not tied to hours.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things I remember from this book is again we talked about. You mentioned hourly rates, and so this is something that you are trying to get away, get like how to say, stay away from, like move to other models. And this is what he's also talking about in the book, that you need to try to package your projects as a like a package, right? You say, okay, this is what I do, and this is how much it will cost, and then you don't do this by hours, you do it by delivering a project, which I
Um,
guess is trickier, right? I mean, this is how it feels
yes,
to me.
I feel like
'Cause- yeah.
that's. I mean, it makes sense that if you work on an hourly basis, there's only so much that you can make, unless, of course, you can bump up your price. That's the other variable that you can basically make more. Whereas if you sell it as a project, you know how much you spent in the project, so technically your margins are much bigger. Um, and that's usually what, and also working on an hourly base. If I want to make more money from a client, I want to work more hours for them. Um, and basically it rewards inefficiency because someone
Mhm.
who's really good and really fast and wants to move on to another project, they will earn less. So from that sense, that's what all the, let's say, the um, the experts consultants say, go away from the hourly model. But I also have the opinion that it's a it's a way, or it's a mentality of going away from hourly. It's easy to be said, but harder to be done.
Yeah.
And I don't hate hourly. I think they have a time and place, and um, if it's useful, especially for someone who wants to get started and the client only wants to do hourly, um, basically the pricing model.
Mhm.
Why do you want to put that project in jeopardy if that's one of your first projects and it gets you paid
Mhm.
and it's a trustworthy client? It's just the way they prefer to handle things. Sometimes like this, hey, go the hourly. There's no shame in it. It's totally fine. And even sometimes there are some projects where you don't know exactly how to manage how much input it needs from your side. So it's totally fine to go with hourly. But yes, in theory, if you want to make more money, have greater margins, the hourly is the least efficient one.
And I just noticed that we actually have a question from the audience, and I did not notice it. Dimitri, do you have like
Sure,
maybe?
sure, sure.
Yeah, okay. So then I'll get to ask this question. Now, I have a suspicion that we might have discussed already it in the previous episode. And by the way, I have just sent the previous episode in the live chat. I will also put it in the description of this video, but let me ask the question anyways. How do you transition into freelancing with a notice period of 3 months? So in Germany, this is very typical. When you work at a company, you give a notice and then you still have to stay with the company for 3 months. And it works both ways. So if a company wants to fire you, then you get to stick around or at least get 3 months worth of salary, right? So most of the projects require short-term availability, and actually I also had a conversation with a recruiter like that. So the recruiter contacted me and he said, look, I have a project. And then he quoted like, I don't know, 1,000 per day or something like this. So it was a very good rate. But then there was a catch that I need to be available right now.
Yeah.
And I was not. And I said, okay, look, I can quit my job, and then I need to wait for 3 months. And then he said, nobody will wait for 3 months. And I asked, okay, what can I do? And he said, well, you can quit now and then contact me in 3 months. And I'm like, nah, nope. So
Yeah.
how do you deal with this problem?
Um, well, let's say the way I did it is I quit, had the notice period. I think even at that time I had a uglier contract, so I think even I had 6 months of period, I believe. But anyways, you quit your job, and what you can do. Some people they are lucky, and they are on a very good terms with their company, so they can ask the company, "Hey, I really want to go freelance. That's the way I want to do it. I want to quit, but instead of losing me after 3 months, why don't I stick around and you become my first client?" If that's a possibility for you, I think that's a very secure way of then quitting a job. Um, Else, if you work especially in contracting, as you said, they want a client is looking for someone, and you're looking for someone right now, not in 3 months. So therefore, that's a little bit harder. But what you can do, I think, and that's the part that I go into in depth in my course, is really the research part of becoming a freelancer. And especially if you're based in Europe or Germany, which is the largest company in Europe, the largest country in Europe, basically for contracting work, is you want to reach out to those recruiters as soon as possible. You want to show them your profile. You want to get really on the phone with them and ask them do you see projects popping up for my type of profile? How should I improve my CV or my profile in order to land more clients? You want to get this feedback, because those people are people that are, again, in touch with the clients. They have a really good market sense, and they can give you the feedback. And at that time, when I was handing in my resignation, I got so much feedback that everyone was saying "Oh, I see project every day. Look at this. If you were a freelancer today, I would apply or would introduce you to these 3 companies or 4 companies," and that gave me confidence. Of course, in 4 months or 5 months, things can change, but that's a little bit, the research risk. That we cannot predict how the market will change in the future. But even in my case, I started in 2019. And then again, in the beginning of 2020, we were hit with a COVID pandemic, where most companies cut the contracts with all their external partners. And I still managed to I had a really, really good year that year. So I think that's really about, can you get anyone in your network or your current employer to kind of agree to becoming your client? And maybe you're better off signing some contract like this. You could also spend some time on, let's say, either from your network or, let's say, places like Upwork or something like this, on those places to slowly build up your reputation on small projects. That will give you also a good feeling. And yeah, I think that's the most secure way, because yes, I was doing something risky, but I don't think it was that risky because I did the research. I got the feedback from the recruiters. I identified other freelancers, and that's the beauty of my data freelancer community, is that you join and you know that there are other freelancers in Germany, in France, in the UK, or in Spain, that are making it as a living. So you can reach out to them, you can talk to them, and they're usually we are a friendly group. We take the time to meet up with people, and we also have our events. So we get together, we talk about this, and everyone from beginner to pro, you know, contributes or asks questions, and I mean it's a lifelong learning basically. So
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you still need to take this leap of faith
yeah.
and do it, right? Like, because yeah, otherwise you cannot do this.
Yeah,
It's
but it's the
the
risk,
rule of
like
the game.
you could switch to a new company and get laid off, you know, during
Oh,
your
right.
during the probation period, you know,
Hmm.
sometimes, and especially over I think the last 2 years there were lots of layoffs. So sometimes we argue that is being an employee like an employee really that secure? Because if they want to get rid of you because there are there's some issues, they do that.
Yeah. Okay, Dimitri, thanks a lot for answering your questions. Thanks a lot for sharing your career story, also updating us on what you've been up to last couple of years, and also staying longer a bit to answer the last question from the audience. So, as always, it's amazing talking with you. So,
Thank
big
you for having
pleasure.
me.
So, we probably will catch up again in a year or two. So, I'm really looking forward to
Will
that.
do.
There is a courier who's trying to get into my door, so I'll have to run. So see you around, and thanks everyone.